So the question that we want to gain power or not is not there. It's about building institutions.
The push for a referendum, the March 4th movement speaks out.
I'm therefore going to give you the maximum sentence, which is 14 years in prison, to serve as a warning also to others.
Nyeri Court's big message: 14 years in jail for a man who had sex with a cow.
Plus, wife against the husband, it's near death for a man who was stabbed by his wife.
Africa, 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 Africa.
And renowned Mali crooner Salif Keita joins the Colour for Face campaign. Good evening once more. Now, the March 4th movement is seeking a constitution amendment to have a president elected by electoral colleges through the 47 counties.
Well, led by activist Kyalo Mtata, the movement denies claims of a cooperation with the Code Alliance to create a multi-pronged push for the referendum change.
Saturday, the 24th of August.
Members of the steering committee of the March 4th movement converged in a city hotel to declare that they will be officially launching the movement Thursday next week. Among the prominent faces in this gathering was that of Eliud Owalo, an aide to former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Last month, Owalo twice declined to record a statement with the Directorate of Criminal Intelligence over allegations of planning to destabilize the government. The sleuths accused him of trying to foment an Arab-like spring revolution through an organization called March 4th Movement. But here was Owalo with members of the March 4th movement. The members say M4M is not a subversive movement and is neither sponsored by a political party or foreign governments to destabilize the country.
M4M is not backed by any political organization.
Having listened to some of the arguments which were being advanced by Kyalo Mtata in respect to the change of the presidential electoral process, the arguments he was advancing were fairly interesting and appealing. And I can now confirm that I've formally joined the March 4th movement.
What we are proposing is to go the American way, where the aggregation of the popular vote is not done at the national level, but is done at the county level.
Politicians allied to the Jubilee Alliance claim the desire to change the system of electing president is driven by greed for power.
Let it be so very clear that we will not be part and parcel of any referendum process whose objective is basically to destabilize Jubilee government.
Former Prime Minister and some code politicians want to shift from the presidential to parliamentary system.
The former PM is talking about a message that is different from what we are saying. So we're not reading from the same script, so be careful about that.
Barely a year into the elections is not enough to say that presidential system has failed, so that we start running all over the country to establish another parliamentary system.
Patrick Amimo, KTN Prime.
The Big Q, in association with Nguvu Cement.
Well, that story brings us to the big question tonight, and we asked, do you support the plan by the March 4th movement to push for an amendment to change the way the president is elected in Kenya? Send us a yes or no answer with a short comment to the number 8040, and Betty and I will sample your views during this live newscast.
Choose Nguvu for undoubted strength.
And talking of the push for a referendum, the CORD coalition team was in Taita Taveta barely a week after Deputy President William Ruto toured the region. CORD leader Raila Odinga says they will push on with a referendum quest with or without support from the Jubilee Alliance.
Barely a week after Deputy President William Ruto toured the coastal region in Kwale County, assuring of the government's commitment to issuing of title deeds to the residents, the CORD brigade landed in Taita Taveta County in a mission to consolidate their political turf. And here they picked up from where the Deputy President had left off.
Mahali katika Kenya hii, katika county yote imetambulika ya kwamba kuna ardhi ya jamii. Na katiba yenyewe imesema ya kwamba na bila kupitia gavana.
CORD's move is perceived strategic to cloud the state's approval of release of 60,000 title deeds in the coast to address the squatter problem. While the deputy president's mission is construed as building bridges, CORD's counter move can be interpreted as holding ground to protect its support base. And here the CORD captain was championing for a constitutional referendum to enhance devolution.
Ndani ya mwezi moja tutaanza kuanza mazungumzo ya juu ya mambo ya referendum ili tukubaliane njia ambayo tutapita na hii mambo ya referendum. Hatutaki iwe na mvurutano. Tutaambia mpaka ndio tuzungumze. Ukikataa sasa ni shauri yako. Kitu sisi nataka hapo Taveta bwana seneta kwa kitu kimoja.
Land remains a central factor in the lives of the coast residents and in the politics of the coastal area. Samugina, KTN, Nairobi.
Away from politics, a 35-year-old man was today sentenced to 14 years in prison by a court in Mukurweini, Nyeri County for engaging in a unnatural act with a cow. Jackson Kiruga, a casual laborer, was accused of engaging in the act with his neighbor's cow in July. In delivering the ruling, Senior Principal Magistrate Wendy Kagendo said recent cases of bestiality were a sign of moral decay in society and expressed the hope that the sentence would serve as a deterrent to others.
Jackson Kiruga stood as if in a daze. It was alleged that on July 24th this year in Mihuti village, Nyeri County, he engaged in an unnatural act with a Frisian cow belonging to his neighbor. The owner of the cow, Anwanjiro, who was present during the ruling, said on the material day she had woken up at 5 a.m. to milk her cow, only to find her neighbor Kiruga in the shed, engaging in the act with a Frisian. Kiruga pleaded guilty to the charges. In mitigation, he stated that he had been under stress as his father had passed away recently and his mother needed him to manage their coffee farm. He also claimed that his status as a bachelor led him to commit the act.
Is he suggesting that he intended to marry the cow in issue, or was it an alternative? The court notes that the moral standards generally in Mukurweini and the country on the decline.
Jackson has been sentenced to 14 years in prison.
Judgment imenifurahisha, ningekuwa nataka iwe funzo kwa watu wengine.
Several cases of bestiality have been reported across the country in recent weeks. In the same court, a 52-year-old father of 6 was sentenced to life imprisonment for defiling his 8-year-old daughter. Wilkes Anyaupo, KTN.
Now, in yet another incident of violence, a man has been admitted in serious condition after being stabbed by his estranged wife at his home in Nairobi's Kasarani area. The motive for the violence is yet to be established. KTN's Charity Kiamani has these details.
By his estranged wife, he lays in bed in agony and pain. Although doctors say he is out of danger, he fears for his life.
He was threatening to burn the house. He just pulled up the gas can, and when I wanted to refuse her to do that, I just received a stab with a knife.
After 2 years of marriage, the attack left him in shock. He couldn't believe that the mother of his children could do such a thing to him.
She has been threatening me with knives. There was even a time that she just chopped off her elder daughter with a knife. And I took the daughter to the hospital.
According to the man, he was in the company of friends at home when his estranged wife made her way in, grabbed a knife and stabbed her husband right under his rib.
Government should create one gender crisis center in every county ward so that men and women should be going to report these instances of domestic abuse and violence.
The man is recovering at a Nairobi hospital. Charity Kimani, KTN Prime.
Officers investigating the murder of a bride-to-be and her brother-in-law on Tuesday have retrieved a recording of CCTV footage that captured the gang entering the shop.
The police are now reviewing the footage in a bid to arrest the suspects. This comes as Kenyans complain about the rising crime in major towns.
As investigations continue into the Monday incident where a bride-to-be was shot dead by gunmen along Kaunda Street, many now say the security situation in the country has gone from bad to worse.
I had visitors from the US and they were actually robbed by policemen. So the fact that I see a policeman does not make me feel secure. Actually, I'm scared.
Police are not enough. They cannot be in every part, but they are trying.
Several security reforms have been suggested in the past, including installation of CCTV cameras and increasing police patrols, among others.
The police post right behind me is not being used to fight crime. Instead, it is used by the matatus plying the 33 and 34 route to collect money.
And while the police say they are pursuing crucial leads into the Kaunda Street murder, the family of the constable Ayub Nyaoke, who died yesterday at the Kenyatta hospital after the shooting, continues to grieve.
Sasa kuingia ndio nasikia kama watu nalia ati Ayub na Beatrice ndio amefariki na Ayub na alifariki na Beatrice. Sasa mimi kufika nilishindwa, nilishtuka, alafu nikaketi tu chini na hizo vitu, si kuingia kwa nyumba.
Tumepanga mambo mengi mpaka ilikuwa imefika mali tumepanga kuoana. Sasa alikuwa ameniambia after wedding ya brother yake tupange yetu sasa.
The Monday incident saw the shooting to death of a bride-to-be and her brother-in-law, who later died in hospital. Najma Ismail, KTN Prime.
The aid agency Médecins Sans Frontières, or Doctors Without Borders, has left Somalia. MSF was set up in the Horn of Africa in 1991 when the civil war began. The agency says it cannot find a reason to stay since their 1,500 staff members are in constant danger and 16 have been killed since 1991. Catherine Mwantho has that story.
It is the end of the road for the Médecins Sans Frontières Somalia chapter. Constant attacks from rebel groups have made operations difficult for the 1,500 MSF staff spread across Somalia, especially in south-central Somalia.
The closure of our activities is a direct result of extreme attacks on our staff in an environment where armed groups and civilian leaders increasingly support, tolerate, or condone the killing, assaulting, and abducting of humanitarian aid workers.
MSF provided medical care to thousands of malnourished children and sick adults. Somali residents will now have to look elsewhere for health care.
The most recent incidents include the brutal killing of 2 MSF staff, Philippe and Kache in Mogadishu in December 2011, and the subsequent early release of their convicted killer, as well as the violent abduction of 2 MSF staff in Dadaab refugee camps in Kenya that ended only last month after 21 months of captivity. These 2 incidents are the latest in a series of extreme abuses. 14 other MSF members have also been killed.
MSF's exit comes at a time when African Union peacekeeping mission top officers claim that Somalia is calm and slowly getting back on its feet. Catherine Omwando, KTN.
Time for business. Now, on the 14th of every month, the Energy Regulatory Commission decides the fate that will befall all Kenyans at the pump station. And this month, prepare to pay more for fuel as the ramifications of recent government policies that have increased cost of imports come home to roost. Adelaide Changole has more.
It will be tough going for motorists after the Energy Regulatory Commission increased prices of kerosene, petrol and diesel. The biggest losers will be the purchasers of kerosene, whose price rose by 4 shillings and 44 cents. Kerosene will now retail at 83.23 shillings in Nairobi. The price of super petrol also increased by 2 shillings and 74 cents a litre to retail at 112.26 shillings, while the price of diesel will go up by 1.58 shillings to retail at 104.44 shillings per litre. The Commission blamed the surge on increased landed cost of fuel, the rising import charges and the deteriorating exchange rate, which has seen the value of $1 fall from 85.65 shillings in June to 86.96 shillings in July. Moreover, the 1.5% new import levy on railway development was factored into pump price computation. Announced by the Treasury Secretary during this year's budget speech, the move is expected to mobilize 15 billion shillings, which will be used to fund construction of a standard gauge railway line. But consumers have cried foul over the latest prices, saying they are punitive to motorists and they will stifle development in the country.
You know, when fuel goes up, it means that everything will go up and it's going to affect the common mwananchi.
Sasa ile kitu wanafaa kufanya, wanafaa waangalie ili watu wasifinyiririke sana.
Kenya is heavily dependent on diesel for transport, power generation and agriculture, while kerosene is used for lighting and cooking in many households. The new prices will take effect tomorrow and will be in force for a month. Adelaide Changole, KTN Business Today.
Now, Kenyan employers are up in arms over the unexplained delay in the gazettement of the new minimum wage structure for 4 months after the presidential directive was issued. President Uhuru Kenyatta had announced a 14% increase in minimum wage on Labor Day, but the changes are yet to be effected because the government has not gazetted the new wages as required by law. Employers say the delay is causing a backlash at the workplace as workers believe that employers are deliberately refusing to implement the new pay structure. Moreover, employers are being forced to budget for the arrears, which will be backdated to May 1st, a fact that is tying up capital that would otherwise have been used for other pursuits. Now, the employers are therefore calling on the government to gazette the new minimum wage structure as soon as possible.
Yes, we have. In fact, we have. The Federation of Kenya Employers therefore calls upon the Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Labour, Social Protection and Services to ensure that the minimum wages orders are gazetted with immediate effect, as the delay in announcing the new minimum wages is causing disaffection in the workplace. It is making employers incur huge arrears, and sadly, it's also contributing to the loss of the much-needed national productivity.
To Power Matters now, the National Treasury will give Kenya Power 2.7 billion shillings over the next 3 months to enable the firm revert to older, lower rates of connecting new customers to the national electricity grid. This is expected to cushion the firm from incurring heavy operational expenses and diverting money that the company said were meant for other critical aspects of its business to subsidize new connections. The money from the government will enable the company revert to the old rate of 35,000 shillings for a new single-phase connection to new customers, down from 60,000 shillings that it has been charging throughout this year. Let's now take a look at the financial markets.